In this episode of Locked On Capitals, the NHL and CCM come out against Russian players, and the Capitals make a depth acquisition. Locked On Capitals starts right now.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thank you for joining me here for Locked On Capitals. Thanks for making Locked On Capitals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So when you're using your podcatcher of choice, make sure and hit the follow or subscribe button. That way you will know when the new podcasts are available. And I got to say, we are also available on YouTube. So hit that subscribe bell in the corner and the same thing there. That way you will know when our new video casts, I guess you would call them, are available. So today in some breaking news, some companies have come out against Russian players, most notably Alex Ovechkin. Of course, that name is going to stand out because, well, he's one of the biggest names in the NHL, and he just happens to be from Russia. So it turns out that companies, like I say, are coming out against him. CCM, for example, is coming out, and they say they're cutting their sponsorships and their endorsements of Alex Ovechkin and other Russian players. In this article here from Rick Westhead from TSN, he said, CCM Hockey will stop using Washington Capitals star Alex Ovechkin and other Russian NHL players in any global marketing initiatives. The company said Monday. CCM Chief Executive Maroon Naba, sorry if I'm saying that name incorrectly, said the equipment company made the decision following Russia's invasion of Ukraine last week. We are very sad to witness, like the rest of the world, what is happening in the Ukraine. Naba wrote in an email to TSN, although Mr. Ovechkin is not responsible for the Russian government's actions, we took the decision to not use him or any Russian player on any global CCM communication at this point. And I got to say, is that the right direction that we want to be going in? It just seems like they're lashing out at anything that's Russian at this point. And it's kind of xenophobic, I hate to say. I mean, what did Alex Ovechkin have to do with this? I mean, I know that Putin is the president of the country where he comes from, but I would hate to be judged, personally based on who our president is. And you heard a lot of people state that about the previous president that we have. So why are we judging Alex Ovechkin based on his president, who his president is? It seems a bit ridiculous to me. And I don't condone the actions of Russia, of course. And I think what's happening in Ukraine is horrible, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. But to go against Alex Ovechkin just because he is Russian is crazy. It seems like one of the biggest things of discrimination that I can think of in recent memory, to be honest with you. So later on in the article, he says, in 2017, 3 years after Russia annexed the Crimea region of Ukraine, Ovechkin campaigned for Russian President Vladimir Putin, starting a social movement called the Putin Team. So, I mean, I guess if you peel into it a little bit more, it seems like that there is a bit of an alliance there. But again, I don't know if, cutting off Alex Ovechkin from CCM or just, speaking out against him is the right idea. I think that once all the facts are known, I think that we'll see that Alex Ovechkin had really little to do with this. In a press conference on February 25th, Ovechkin was asked whether he was still supported Putin and whether he would condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Like, I'm Russian, right? Ovechkin said, sometimes some things I can't control. It's not in my hands. Please, no more war. It doesn't matter who is in the war, Russia, Ukraine, different countries. We have to live in peace and a great world. And didn't that say enough? I think that people are trying to not take him at his word, and I think that they should take him at his word. I have never sensed anything from Alex Ovechkin that he's had any of these types of feelings. So I think for people to be dismissive of Alex Ovechkin based on his comments, I think is a bit foolish. Asked about the support of Putin, Ovechkin responded, "He's my president, but I'm not in politics. I'm an athlete." And I think that kind of puts Alex Ovechkin in an awkward spot, doesn't it? He's in the limelight in American sports. And I think, I kind of feel awful for him in a lot of ways because he's in this foreign land to him. I mean, I think he has dual citizenship now, but his home is in Russia. And, there might be a lot of people out there that want to lash out against him just based on the fact that he's Russian. Think of a lot of other groups out there. If you lashed out them just based on who they are, I think we'd be calling those people awful things. So to do that is just, it kind of blows my mind. Ovechkin has been among CCM's most visible pitchmen. The Montreal-based company says Ovechkin paid more than 500,000 per year plus a percentage of its sales within Russia, said an industry source who is familiar with the matter. CCM, which also has endorsement contracts with Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, first began as an Ontario bicycle manufacturer in 1899. As hockey became more popular, the company pivoted and began producing ice skates. It's unclear whether the Capitals will change their approach to marketing Ovechkin in their home market, one of the largest U.S. media markets. A team spokesman did not respond to a request for the comment. So, man, it's just some crazy times that we're living in. And let me state this now that, I got a lot more people listening to my podcast now. I do not, and I cannot overemphasize that enough. I do not agree with what's going on in Ukraine. Of course I don't. But I'm just saying, I mean, I don't think that we have to be going after Russian players and killing their contracts and just coming out against them. I kind of feel worried for their safety, to be honest with you. So I just think that we need to, I think we need to have a little bit of a level head here. And in other news, we got to try to keep this a little bit more positive here. Everything is so contentious nowadays in sports. I thought that sports was this big release, where you can just kind of sit down and watch it, not have to worry about politics. But it seems that politics has become interwound with sports. I mean, if you look at all the things that were going on with the NFL in previous seasons, it's my escape. A lot of people at work want to try to talk to me about what's going on in politics and around the world, and I'm pretty much up on the news, but sometimes it's too much for me. It is. So I kind of zone out with it. And some people may say you're sticking your head in the sand, but it's for me, it's a lot of energy that I can't do anything to change. I can't change what's going on over there. Like I said, I'm coming out and I have a public microphone here, and I will say it again. I am against what's going on in the Ukraine, and I wish there was no war over there. Obviously, I don't think that anyone wants that except for Putin and some of the people in Russia. And I hope that situation can get resolved soon. So, pivoting from that, the Washington Capitals did make a signing today. It was a depth signing, I guess you could say. This is from WashingtonCaps.com. The Washington Capitals have signed Seattle Thunderbirds forward Henry Rabinski to a 3-year entry-level contract. Senior Vice President and General Manager Brian McClellan announced today Rabinski will remain with Seattle this season, and his contract will begin in the 22-23 season. Rabinski, 20, who has recorded a career-high 54 points, 18 goals, 36 assists in 39 games with the Thunderbirds of the Western Hockey League this season. The 6'2", 185-pound forward leads Seattle with 1.38 points per game and ranks second in points and assists. The Vancouver, BC native has recorded 15 multi-point games this season and is tied for the team lead with 4 more winning goals. Rabinski has additionally won 428 of his 775 faceoffs this season. So, I mean, on paper, that looks like an excellent signing. And you got to give it to the Caps and their scouting department and the GM and whoever else is involved with that for noticing that. I think that was a really solid pickup, and I hope that he works out well in the Capitals organization. So we're going to take a little bit of a break here. And we're going to hear from our sponsor. So, Built Bar Talking Points. This is the time of year I've gotten pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're so good. If you guys really, if you haven't tried these, they're excellent. If you're looking for a snack out there and you don't feel like eating a donut and you don't feel like eating, candy, eat a Built Bar. They're high in protein and they're really tasty. I eat them all the time, so it's kind of cool that they're one of the sponsors of this show. These are going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, puffs included, 100% real chocolate. They're low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 2 to 300 calories. Ouch. If you're making a New Year's resolution about losing weight, you don't want to be eating candy bars. You want to be eating a Built Bar. There's so many great flavors. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Again, that's use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Thank you, Built. All right, so we're going to keep moving ahead with a conversation about the new signing about the Washington Capitals, and then I'm going to preview the games coming ahead. The games that are coming ahead are going to be against Carolina, and Carolina has won the last 5, and last I checked, they were tied tonight. So the Capitals are going to have to be ready. They're going to have to be ready against this Carolina team because they're loaded and they have a ton of firepower out there. This Carolina team, if you think back on years past, wasn't that great. You'd watch them play, and there was hardly anyone in the stadium or in the arena, rather. They've really turned it around. So, I mean, if you just look at their record, they are in first place. Let me see if I can get a total on that game. So, the Carolina Hurricanes, yes, they are still in first place as it stands right now. They are, at this recording, they are 37-11. So that is good for 78 points. Underneath them is the Penguins with 74 points, the Rangers 71, and the Capitals with 65 points. So as it stands right now, the Capitals are a wild card team. And like I mentioned in the podcast yesterday, they're really going to have to turn it up. They are going to have to turn it up if they're going to may have a chance of doing anything in the playoffs. I mean, the road ahead is going to be a tough one because the Rangers and the Penguins and the Hurricanes, they're not losing. I guess the Penguins lost the other day there, but the Rangers and the Hurricanes are really firing on all cylinders. So, like we talked about the trades and whatever's going to have to happen between now and the trade deadline, hopefully before the trade deadline. That way you're not stuck paying top dollar. And that's just unfortunate when that's the case, especially when you get into rentals. I mean, if you think of those in the past, I think of Shattenkirk. I mean, everyone was so excited. Oh my God, we got Shattenkirk. Can you believe that? How long did that last? He was only there for a couple months and he was gone. And what did we give up to get him? So it's just, those rentals. I mean, I guess if you're in a position where, you can get one player that's going to push you over the top, maybe consider it. It's a tough thing to say, but I guess if they could find a truly elite goaltender out there, I think that Gorgiev, I think that he is one of the free agents out there. I would say that if they could pick up someone like that, I think you give up some bigger names to get someone like that. I know that's kind of contradicting what I said, but if there is one person, like a big name player out there or a big name position like goaltender, then I think you go for it, right? And I think in a lot of ways that's one of the linchpins for the Washington Capitals' goaltending. Because look at Vitek Vanacek came in the second against Toronto, slammed the door right in Toronto's face. Bam! So you might want to say the defense was collapsing in front of Ilya Samsonov, but it's the same defense that was out there playing in front of Vitek Vanacek. So maybe it's one of those things. When they talked to Peter Laviolette about it, he said it was his decision. It wasn't like because of play. But of course, I don't think he's going to throw his goaltender under the bus either. A lot of times they do that for momentum change, but yeah, I just hope that they can figure that out, and just get back to what we were talking about earlier. He shows a lot of promise. Henry Rabinski, that they picked up from the Seattle Thunderbirds, and I hope that he works out in the Capitals organization. As you know, the AHL Hershey team is pretty depleted, and because they've done what I talked about, is they've just kept parting with big name players, and when you do that, it comes at a cost. You're giving up, even if you think about that in all of sports, take a look at the Los Angeles Rams. And I guess if you're using them as a blueprint, I guess it worked. Mission accomplished, LA Rams, because they gave up the farm to get the players that they had. They got Stafford and they had Odell Beckham Jr. And you're like, well, oh my God, they also gave up all these draft picks for him. Well, guess what? Won the Super Bowl. Worth it. So you got to kind of have a level head about it, and you have to kind of you have to have a level head, and you have to have a good GM that knows what he's doing. And I think that Brian McClellan for the Capitals, I have complete faith in him. He hasn't made any blunders that I'm aware of. As I spoke of yesterday with George McPhee, and he made some big mistakes there, and he made some great decisions too. I guess it's a tough thing. The thing that will always haunt him, I think, is the Philip Forsberg thing. Thinking back on that has to be one of the worst trades in Capitals history. I mean, there's probably worse ones out there, but if you're asking me knee jerk right now, what is one of the worst, that definitely comes to mind. So during the 2021 season with the Seattle, Rabinski led the team with 28 points, 7 goals, 21 assists in 23 games, and was tied for 20th in the WHL in 225 career games with Seattle and the Medicine Hat Tigers of the WHL. Rabinski has recorded 165 points, 47 goals, and 118 assists. I'm all about it. What do you guys think, Caps? I think that you got to go in for something like that. And he's a young guy. He seems like he has some promise, but he's not a name that really garners some kind of, he's not a household name. Like they picked up a big name player, but sometimes that's the way it works. And maybe it'll end up being one of those big names down the road. It's really hard to say. So that's the way it is with that right now. So thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And to support the other podcasts out there, this is a really great network, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. They just, like I say, before I even was on this podcast network, I listened to a lot of the different shows that were on there. So just support the shows that are out there. I mean, if you want to get local analysis, if you want to watch news on your Capitals or whatever NHL team or whatever professional team you're looking for, really, then that's what I would check out Locked On. You don't have to wade through a 1-hour national podcast. So, like I say, support the companies and support the sponsors, and then also support Locked On. So, taking a look ahead here, there has been some news with the Capitals in practice today. A lot of players got dinged up in this last game. Laviolette said Snively's injury has been lingering, just caught up with him. And Snively is one of those players that was a pleasant surprise for the Capitals. Kind of a name that came out of nowhere. I wasn't really familiar with him. I know that he played as a kid for the Capitals, the little Capitals team there in Washington. So what a great story, kind of a Disney story, really. It's kind of a cool thing that he looked up to Alex Ovechkin growing up, and now he's playing with him. So today the Capitals were practicing, and Vitek Vanacek, Nicholas Backstrom, Evgeny Kuznetsov are taking maintenance days per the team. Joe Snively is not practicing like I talked about. He has an upper body injury, so that's not a good sign. The Capitals are starting to get a lot of their players back. Oshie's in the lineup. Backstrom's in the lineup. But as you're making this push for the playoffs, you need that depth. And you need players like Joe Snively there to fill in those gaps. I mean, he's not just someone, he's not a band-aid to fill in for another guy. He's actually a legit hockey player in this organization. And you look at the different players on the Capitals, it's been next man up the entire season. You know, you look at Leeson and Protas. And I guess I wouldn't call them AHLers anymore because they've kind of established themselves with the Capitals. But if you look at Faravari and you look at McMichael, um, this Capitals team, you know, they've kind of, like I say, next man up the entire season because it's not the same Capitals team as it was last year. And hats off to them for really stepping up to the challenge. TJ Oshie talks about here, and this is a post from Samantha Pell. After his latest ailment, TJ Oshie is just happy to be back on the ice again. Described the whole process as pretty rough. It's been real frustrating. A bunch of things that were really kind of out of my control. I've never had a year like this, and I've talked about that before with TJ Oshie. Is he's a guy that goes all out all the time, all the time. And he's a guy, I mean, if he's not the biggest guy in the league, but don't tell him that. He'll take on anyone. Um, but I got to say, and it's not his fault, so don't take this the wrong way. He's kind of has a knack for injury over the seasons and over the different years with the Capitals. He's kind of been prone to have accidents, and I'm glad he's back out on the ice because the Capitals are better when he's out there. I don't think that there's any real debating that. The Capitals have now lost 3 in a row in regulation for the first time since dropping 4 straight last February. This is what I'm talking about. They got to figure it out, guys, before it's too late. You know, I don't want to push the panic button, but I want to know where it is because, I mean, if they don't get past this week and they don't pick up big wins against Carolina, and I know that's going to be a tough ask, and if they don't pick up a win against the Kraken this Saturday, then things aren't looking that great. You know, like I was saying yesterday, I think that even if they fell on their face, I think that the Capitals, you know, would make it into the playoffs, at least the first round, just based on their positioning. I mean, unless Columbus really ratcheted it up, but you know, we're running out of runway for any teams to make these big runs out there. You look at Montreal. I was watching the highlights before I came down and recorded this. I mean, if they had more time and they had switched to Marty St. Louis earlier in the season, who knows where they'd be right now? Sometimes a coach makes all the difference in the world. Wilson on the game-winning goal. They obviously went out there looking to shake it up late. They got the 4-on-4. Maybe that is something they were looking for with 4 minutes left in the game. There is a lot of ice out there, not an excuse. We got to be better in those moments. And that Toronto team, I mean, wow, they were most impressive. It was like Harlem Globetrotter action out there for a while. Kind of reminded me of that game with Columbus. If you saw that with Laine out there earlier, it was just a beautiful goal. I don't know if you guys watch the NHL Network. You should. It's a really great network, and that's where I get a lot of my information from. But just on fire, the Columbus Blue Jackets as of late, and I think they could turn it around here. You know, maybe they can make a push for it now. I don't know. All I know is that they got Carolina coming up next, and they're a formidable opponent. I mean, if you would have said that years ago, I'd have probably said, Carolina, get the heck out of here. But yeah, they're no joke this year. Laviolette on the 6th straight loss at home. There's frustration, but you're probably angry more than anything else. It's our building, and we're not getting it done. It's got to be better. And, you know, it's our barn. That is Capital One Arena. I was going to say the Verizon Center. It was that for such a long time, but And that was a house of horrors for so many teams out there for the longest time. But I just, the Capitals, it's not that way anymore, and they need to address it. I hate to say it, but I think that there's a rebuild in the future. When is that going to be? I'm not entirely sure. I just don't know, but I see it coming just because. So, say the Capitals make a first round exit. There's a few scenarios out there that exist. And I think that one of them is, I hate to say it, if the Capitals either A, don't make it to the playoffs, or there's a quick exit based on their play, Peter Laviolette might be without a job. And I hate that it's always the coach. I really hate it because like I've said in my other podcast, he can't put the skates on and play for the players. They have to find a way to win. And I know he's the head coach and I know it's on his shoulders, but let's not always blame the head coach for everything. I think Peter Laviolette is a great coach, but I think, when McClellan has to talk to ownership, George McPhee or Ted Leonsis, excuse me, it's been a long day, excuse me, Ted Leonsis, and he has to explain why the Capitals are not performing well. I think instead of, taking the hit on that, I think that, that's what they do. I think that the GMs do that sometimes. Instead of taking the hit, they'll just say, well, you know what I'm going to do about this? Ted Leonsis is I'm going to fire the head coach. And that's what I did, and I hope it doesn't come to that. Because like I say, I think Peter Laviolette's a great coach, and it's that coaching carousel. If you saw what they did in Chicago today with the GM there, they're starting to infuse some newer, younger blood in there. It's just not these same coaches from one team to the next, to the next, to the next, because honestly, that gets a little old. So, some more here from Tom Wilson. We got to control the big moments and find ways to win those games. We found ourselves in close games quite a bit here the last month, and they've been going the other way, and that is just unacceptable. And it's spoken like a future captain, if you ask me, Tom Wilson. And that's some accountability coming from a younger guy. And I can say younger guy, being that I'm 45 years old right now. Oh my God, where's the time gone? Anyway, back to the Capitals. For a younger guy, he's going to be 28 actually next month. Tom Wilson is wiser beyond his years, and he's a leader. And that's really kind of stuck out to me the last couple seasons. And I think that probably it's because he's hanging out with guys that are older than him and some real leaders. For the longest time, they called Nick Backstrom dad. And, it helps to have a good mentor in the form of Alex Ovechkin, the current captain of the Washington Capitals. So Tom Wilson's right, and he has some insightful thoughts there. And they need to find a way to win these close games. You got to find a way to win the games 2-1, 3-1. You're not going to always get those games and win 3-0 or 4-0. You got to find a way to win. Vanacek, Backstrom, and Kuznetsov won't practice today, maintenance day for all three players. Snively won't practice either. Talked about that earlier. So we hope that Snively can, it's just a maintenance, with Snively, the injury that he has isn't major. But as far as Vanacek, I think that he played that game the night before in Hershey, and he wasn't really slated to play against the Maple Leafs, but it was because of the poor play of Ilya Samsonov that thrust him into action. So, and great for Vitek Vanacek. I think that, depending on who they pick up, I think they could be the number one. I mean, unless they really blow it away and get some really big name out there, I think that Vitek Vanacek, and I'll just keep this into context of what I'm talking about. If he continues on his current trajectory, I think that he is positioning himself to be the number one netminder for the Capitals. And that's not saying a lot right now, being that Ilya Samsonov is the other goaltender. And I'm kind of beating the drum for this guy because I think that there's potential there, and I don't want him to get discarded and pushed onto the side of the road. But Zach Fucale, I think that he has potential, and I think that he has a spot on this Capitals team at some point. There's certain aspects of his game that remind me of Braden Holtby. So that would be great if they could have him come back, and have him get another chance in the NHL. Another comment here, Peter Laviolette, and this news is just kind of emerging. I was recording this throughout the day. Snively's upper body injury is a lingering one, so it sounds like something that's been bugging him for some time. And I just hope that they can figure it out, and I hope that that lingering injury isn't too big of a deal there. So, in the upcoming episodes here tomorrow, I'm going to talk about that Carolina series. I'm going to talk about the weekend series and all the other news that's going on in the Washington Capitals. That is my job, to cover the Washington Capitals for you, the fan. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's DanCaps218. Otherwise, you can find Locked On Capitals on Twitter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link so that all of you can leave your voice comments. So what it is you just click on the link, you record your voice comment, and it shoots an email to me. And depending on how many I get, I'll put them on the air. If there's a lot, those might have to get spread out to a couple different episodes, but I ultimately want to hear from you, the fans, the Washington Capitals fans of DC and all across the United States and ultimately the globe. I want to hear from you. So if you want to follow me, Dan Caps 218, or on Twitter, Locked On Capitals, and I'll put your voicemails and try to answer some of your questions and put your comments out there. I want to hear from you. So that is the Washington Locked On podcast for tonight. Now, make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Host Steele Rodden and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So listen to that podcast. I listen to them. Some great insight from them. That's what I'm talking about, this Locked On Network. There's just a wealth of knowledge, and it covers virtually every team you can think out there. Any sport. It covers baseball, football, hockey, college. It has it all covered. So keep it locked here. Keep it locked on your team every day. And I want to thank you guys for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.